Senator Ernst, please.
Thank you very much for being here for our panelists this morning. I had the great opportunity this past weekend to spend time in Poland Saturday and Sunday with our Iowa Army National Guard troops. So we do have a couple of units that were mobilized for regularly scheduled deployments. We have the 209th Medical Company as well as the 1133rd Transportation Company. And I just want to say to all of our folks back home, their families and loved ones, that I am so very proud of these hard-charging young men and women from Iowa. They are doing an incredible job supporting in Poland. God bless them all. So, Dr. Stent, I know you had a very powerful message for all of us talking about the message we need to send not only to the world, but to Americans as well, and how we should be speaking to that. Can you just double down on that for me, please, and how we should be talking to the American people about this? Because as General Kellogg pointed out, it's important that Americans understand, because they do have valid concerns, but they need to understand the gravity of the war in Ukraine. So what, again, is that message, and how do we communicate that?
Thank you, Senator. You know, we have to explain to the American people, first of all, in the last century, twice the U.S. had to intervene in a war in Europe to essentially save Europe and save the world from tyranny and from conquest. And so what's happening between Russia and Ukraine? Russia, you know, after 77 years after the end of World War II, just broke the system that we had. It violated all of the sort of rules that governed the world after the end of World War II. And by just invading a neighbor really on a whim, with no provocation, it was saying that, you know, it could arbitrarily take over another country. It didn't respect its territorial integrity, its sovereignty. And so if Russia is allowed to continue, if Russia were to prevail in this war, this wouldn't be the end of it. It would want to take the whole of Ukraine. It set its sights on other countries. It's already undermining Moldova, for instance. And really, it's also explicitly said that it believes that Poland is still in its sphere of influence. If you look at the two so-called treaties that were presented to the United States and NATO in December of 2021. So it is a question of world order. That sounds very abstract, but it's a world in which Russia would like a world where there are no rules. It's a disruptive power. It could cause instability, you know, on the European continent, certainly for a long time. That has huge economic impacts. And as we've seen, even global impacts in the way that it's prevented the Ukrainians from exporting much of their grain and fertilizers. So I think the American people have to understand it does affect them. And that if Russia isn't stopped, we can't sort of wall ourselves off from this conflict. And we need to, you know, reestablish rules that people will abide by and respect international law.
Yes.
So I think that's probably the best way of explaining it.
No, I really appreciate it. And I don't think Americans want to live in a world that's dominated by Russia and by China. I think it's very important that Ukrainians win this war. Ms. Manicott, when we talk about equipment and the degradation of Russian capabilities, Ukrainian capabilities, is Ukraine sufficiently equipped to suppress and defeat Russia's air defenses? And what are those weapon systems that the U.S. could maybe provide to effectively counter the Russian air defenses?
That's one of the most complicated missions to do. I don't think the Ukrainians would be able to do it comprehensively from the air. Russia's SAM system is really quite multi-layered at this point in Ukraine. And Russia and Ukraine are both denying each other the use of airspace right now. On the ground capabilities that could potentially disable some of these systems, the Ukrainians have been able to target them with precision munitions. So that is if they are provided the right type of information, they act on it pretty quickly. So that is really helping that degradation over time. From an air-to-ground perspective, I think that would be pretty difficult.
So and just in closing, because my time is running out, I do believe in supporting Ukraine. I think it's important that we continue to do this and do it full on, not the drip, drip, drip we've seen from the administration. And I really appreciate all of you being here today and sharing your message with all of our folks back home as well. But again, to the folks that love and support the 209th and the 1133rd, God bless them. They're doing well. You should be proud of them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Ernst. Senator